Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by a dense forest, lived three hunters named Ufe, Obum, and Ugo. They were best of friends and lived together in a small hut in the outskirts of the village. They spent their days hunting and exploring the forest, sharing their spoils and stories with each other. The three friends were inseparable and their friendship was strong. However, as time passed, Ugo began to feel the call of marriage. He met a beautiful woman named Ife and they fell deeply in love. Ugo decided to leave his friends and start a new life with Ife in a new house. Ugo's decision was met with mixed emotion from his friends. Obun was happy for Ugo and wished him well, but Ufe felt a pang of jealousy. He had always been the most skillful hunter of the group, and he felt threatened by Ugo's newfound happiness and success. As Ugo settled in his new life, he began to flourish. He became a successful hunter, known throughout the land for his bravery and skill. People would come from far and wide to hear his stories and seek his advice. Ufe, on the other hand, became bitter and resentful. He couldn't bear the thought of Ugo's success and fame, and he began to distance himself from Ugo. Obum, who had always been the voice of reason, tried to intervene. He advised Ufe to be happy for Ugo's success and to celebrate him, but Ufe refused to listen. The two friends began to drift apart. As time passed, Obum's own fortune began to change. He became a skilled hunter in his own right. Obum the skill hunter had always been known for his bravery. He had spent countless of hours in honing his skill, learning the habits of animals and perfecting his arm. One day, Obum set out on a hunting expedition, determined to bring back the biggest and the most elusive prey of all, the buffalo. He had heard stories of buffalo's strength and ferocity, but he was not deterred. He was confident in his abilities and knew that he had the skills to take down the mighty beast. After hours of tracking and stalking, Obum finally came face to face with the buffalo. It was enormous, with horns as long as Obum's arm and the eyes that seemed to pierce right through him. Obum took a deep breath, armed his spear, and threw it with all his might. The spear struck the buffalo with precision, and the beast let out a defending roar before crashing to the ground. Obum has done it. He has killed the buffalo. The news of Obum's incredible feat spread like wildfire throughout the village. The villagers were amazed and impressed by his bravery and skill. The king himself heard of Obum's achievement and was impressed that he decided to honor him in a grand ceremony. The ceremony was attended by kings and dignitaries from all over the land. Obum was crowned the greatest hunter of the year, and the king presented him with a magnificent prize, his daughter's hand in marriage. Obum was taken aback by the offer, but he was also deeply honored. He accepted the king's offer, and the wedding preparation began. Wedding was a grand affair with traditional activities and ceremony taking place over several days. The villagers danced and sang, and the air was filled with the delicious aroma of traditional cooking. Obum and his bride, the king's daughter, were dressed in their finest attire, and they exchanged vows in a beautiful ceremony. The king himself gave his daughter's hand in marriage, and Obum promised to cherish and love her for the rest of his life. The three hunters' life had taken a very different path. Ugo had found happiness and success with his wife Ife. Obum has become a renowned hunter and started a happy family. Ufe, the jealous hunter, sat in his small hut, staring at the walls with a mixture of anger and sadness. He couldn't help but think about his two friends, Ugo and Obum, who had both found success and happiness. Said, Ugo had been the first to get married, was now living in a beautiful house with his wife, Ife. They had children and Ugo hunting business was thriving. People would come from all over to hear his stories and seek his advice. Obum, on the other hand, had become a renowned hunter, known for his bravery and skill. He had killed a massive buffalo, a fact that had earned him a great acclaim and wealth. He was married to a beautiful woman and they had started a new life. Here I am, still struggling. I have no money, no wife, no children. He felt like a failure and his jealousy towards his friends was consuming him. As he sat in his hut, Ufe couldn't help but think of how he could change his fortune. He wanted to get married and have children just like his friend. He wanted to be successful and respected. But every time Ufe thought about taking action, he felt overwhelmed by his own inadequacy. He had no money to pay for a wedding, no skills to attract a wife, no prospect for a better future. As the day turned into weeks, Ufe's jealousy and frustration grew. He started to avoid his friend, unable to bear the thought of seeing their happy faces and hearing about their success. Ugo and Obum noticed Ufe's absence and tried to reach out to him. They could visit him, bringing gifts and offering, words of encouragement, but Ufe would just push them away, too proud to accept their help. One day, Ufe's loneliness and depression became too much to bear. He decided to take a risk and approach a wealthy woman in the village, asking for her hand in marriage. The woman, whose name was Ofure, was taken aback by Ufe's proposal. She was much older and wealthier than Ufe, and she couldn't understand why he would want to marry her. But Ufe was desperate. He promised Ofure that he would do anything to make her happy, that he would work hard to provide for her and make her proud. Ofure, who had always wanted a young and a handsome husband, was tempted by Ufe's proposal. She agreed to marry him, but only if he could prove himself worthy by bringing her a rare and valuable animal hide. Ufe, who had never been much of a hunter, was determined to succeed. He spent every working moment tracking and stalking animals, determined to bring back the hide that Ofure had requested. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not catch an animal. He would only track an animal for hours, only to have it escape at the last minute. He could set traps, only to have them fail. As they turned into weeks, Ufe's frustration and depression grew. He started to feel like he was never going to be able to provide for Ofure. And then, one day, Ufe received some devastating news. Ofure had changed her mind about marrying him. She had met a young, more successful man, and she had decided to marry him instead. Ofure was Ufe was heartbroken. He had given up everything for Ofure, and now she had rejected him. He felt like he is a failure. As he sat in his hut, feeling sorry for himself, Ufe had a knock at the door. It was Obum and Ugo that came to visit him. Ufe tried to hide his feelings, but his friends could see the pain in his eyes. They sat next to him, putting a hand on his shoulder. Ufe, my friend, Ugo said, "We know things have been tough for you lately. We want you to know that we are here for you. We will always be here to support you no matter what." Obum nodded in agreement. "We know you are struggling, Ufe, but we also know that you are strong. You can get through this, my friend." Ufe looked up at his friend, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. He was happy and he realized he has been blind to the love and support that had been there for him all along. From that day on, Ufe made a conscious effort to change his way. He stopped feeling sorry for himself and started focusing on his strength. He started hunting again, using the skill he had learned from his friends. One day, Ufe confided in his friends about his desire to get married and start a family. He told them about a beautiful woman named Kemi who he had met in the village but had no resources to marry her. Ugo and Obum, who had always been supportive of their friend, decided to step in and help. They offered to provide everything needed for the marriage, including food, drinks, and clothing. They also promised to give Ufe a plot of land each for farming so that he could provide for his new family. Ufe was overjoyed by his friend's generosity. He married Kemi in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by their friends and families. After the wedding, Ufe and Kemi settled down on his father's house and started building a new life together. But as time passed, Ufe began to feel restless. He started to feel like he was living in the shadow of his friends, who were more successful and wealthy than him. He began to have a feeling of jealousy and resentment towards Ufe and Obum, who he felt were holding him back. One day, Ufe made a shocking decision. He decided to sell the land provided by his friends against Kemi's wish. He used the money he received from the sale to travel to the city, where he hoped to find a better and become more successful than his friend. Kemi was devastated by Ufe's decision. She had grown to love the land and life they have built together. She pleaded with her husband not to sell the land, but he refused to listen. Ufe traveled to the city, full of hope and dreams. But instead of finding success and wealth, he was scammed by a group of con artists who promised him a lucrative business deal, but it turned out to be a scam. Ufe lost all the money he had received from the sale of the land, and he was left with nothing. Ufe was forced to return to the village, more poor and humble than ever. He was met with disappointment and anger from Kemi, who had been waiting for him patiently. Ugo and Obum, who had always been supportive of their friend, were also disappointed by his action. Ufe realized too late that he had made a grave mistake. He had let his jealousy and ambition consume him, and he had lost everything that matters to him. He was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life and try and rebuild his relationship with his families and friends. And he vowed never again to let his negative emotion consume him and to always cherish the love and support of his friends and family. The end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my video, kindly give it a thumb up and comment your opinion. Also tell me where you are watching from. Please kindly subscribe to my channel to support my growth. God bless you. Bye.